Scrapping, guys. What we're going to do today is just practice putting what we learned yesterday into practice. I got 8 equations I need to solve. I'm going to take you through them all. You're not going to work on this on your own until maybe later this week, and that depends on what the school and the cold and all that stuff. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, we need to solve these equations, but I need to know how many answers there are. Well, I see the second power. That's a dead giveaway that I got to find 2 answers here. Okay? So, and I'm going to put that in the corner right there. So whenever there's 2 answers I need to find, I need to make sure that the equation's set equal to 0. Because at this point, I don't know how to do the problems anywhere else other than to set up my factoring boxes to find the 2 answers. So the 0's there, so I write set. Okay? And I do that whenever there's 2 answers. So now that we're set, we need to underline the terms. Don't never underline 0. So that's 2 terms. Okay, so 2 terms. So I know what to use, the GCF box and the difference of perfect squares box, the DOPS box. So GCF and then my difference of perfect squares box. Remember 2, maybe it's possible, maybe it's not possible, but at least have it there. So remember how to find a GCF. You check for the negative in the front, and it's there, so our GCF has to be negative. Okay? Now check if everything has x. Well, this has x to the second, and this has x to the first, so we need to take the x to the smaller power down here. Okay? And then GCF calculator. By the way, if it doesn't have a power, it's to the first. Okay, so then I go 4 and 40. And I get 4, okay? So negative 4x to the first is going to be my GCF. So I put that out here, put a parentheses around it, and then I go up and divide by negative 4 with x to the first. Okay, so I take negative 4x to the second divided by negative 4x to the first. Well, I take negative 4 divided by negative 4, and that's 1, okay? And then there's still going to be an x here because I take 2 minus 1, and that's 1. Then I take positive 40 divided by negative 4, and I get negative 10, so I'm going to put minus 10. And then since these x's are to the same power, we're just going to get rid of them. Okay? Now, DOPS. So what we do, we cross this out. I don't want to look there anymore. I'm looking at these 2 things. Okay? Now, check for your x to the second. And your x is not to the second, it's to the first, so that makes this not possible. Okay, so I'm done with the factoring part. Now I label my F1 and F2 up here. Take those first powers away though. So F1 is negative 4x. I set that equal to 0. And then F2 is 1x minus 10. I set that equals 0. See, having the first power there is just going to lead to confusion. Okay, so if it's a first power, we take it away. So I dot my x, circle. Dot my x, circle. Here I go straight to the division, and 0 divided by negative 4 is 0. Okay, so 0 is your first answer. Now your other answer, we plus 10. Plus 10. 0 plus 10 is 10, so 1 times x equals 10. And then I go to my division by 1, but dividing by 1 just keeps that at 10. So 0 and 10 are the 2 solutions to the problem. Okay, now number 2, 4x to the second minus 100 equals 0. So first off, I know I have to solve the equation. Now, from now on, we have to solve the equation. We have to get the answer down here. So again, my x is to the second, and that tells me there's two different answers that this equation has. So anytime there's 2 answers, we need to check for our 0. It's right there, so I write set. Okay, so we're set to make our boxes. And just like up here, I have 2 terms. Okay, so it's the same 2 boxes, GCF. And then my DOPS, my difference of perfect squares box. DOPS, question, and then the parentheses, one with a plus, one with a minus. So the GCF, check for the negative in the front. This time it's not there, so I'm not going to put the negative like I did up here. Now check if everything has x. Well, 4 does, but 100 doesn't have an x of any kind, so I don't put x like I did up here. Now GCF calculate your 4 and 100. and I get 4 again. Okay, so the GCF's 4. But notice how I'm not putting x with it. I just put a 4 here. You can't put x with it because 100 doesn't have an x. So I divide 4 by 4, and that's 1. And then x to the second stays x to the second because I don't put an x down there. And then I take negative 100 divided by 4, and that's negative 25. So since I got a negative, it's minus 25. So it's time to ignore that. Now the DOPS takes place of these two things. So check for your x to the second. And it's there. So that allows me to go x, x. Now is the second number negative? Well, the second number is 25, and it is negative. Okay. Now turn this paper over and see if the numbers are perfect. Okay. So I turn that paper over, and I'm looking at 1 and 25, not 4. 4's out. So 1 is perfect. That's 1 times 1. So that's what goes in front of the x, because 1 was in front of x the second. Then 25. 25 is perfect. That's 5 times 5. Okay, now you check in your GCF box, and you see a 4, so you drop a 4 down. And now the factoring is complete, okay? Now, the 4 does not get an F label because it doesn't have X. It's just 4, okay? That's why it's so important that you don't put X, okay? If you have any number on that side without X, you can't do an X with it. It's just the number. Okay, so I don't label that with an F since there's no X attached to it. So my F1 and F2 come from here. And remember, this is equal to 0. So I set these two factors individually equal to 0. So 1x plus 5 could equal 0, or 1x minus 5 could equal 0. So I dot my x's, circle them, and then I minus 5. 0 minus 5 is negative 5, so 1 times x equals negative 5. And then when I divide by 1, it still stays negative 5. So there's your first answer. In the second, I plus 5 and plus 5. 0 plus 5 is 5, so 1 times x equals 5. Then divide by 1, and 5 divided by 1 is 5 again. Okay, now my next page. How many answers? Your x is not to the second power, so there's just one answer. So we're not looking for set. We put NFP. NFP stands for non-factoring problem. So first, make sure the x is only there one time, and it is. So dot it and circle it. Then you just undo your plus 6 by minusing 6. Negative 12 minus 6 is negative 18. So 3 times x equals negative 18. And then I go to the division step. So divide by 3. So negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6. So on NFP problems, I don't make all those boxes, okay, because there's just one answer. Now, unfortunately, on the next one, the x is to the second power, so that's going to be 2 answers. So if there's 2 answers, you got to look for the 0. So it's set, okay? So I underline my terms. This time there's 3, okay? So again, on the NFP problems, I don't use this sheet, okay? I have no use for it. But this is a factoring problem. It's set. There are 3 terms, so it'd be the GCF and the T. Okay. So the GCF, again, same rules apply. Check for the negative in front, and it's not there. Check for x on, check if everything has x. Well, we got x there. We have it here to the first. Put a first right there when you're checking that. But I don't have an x here, okay? So that disallows me to put an x in the GCF. I don't want to put an x here, okay? Now, GCF calculator, 12, 22, and 20. And the GCF's 2. But remember, it's 2. It's not 2x. Okay, so 2 comes out. So 6 divided by 2, 12 divided by 2 is 6, and I don't have an x down there, so it's going to stay x to the second. And then we take positive 22 divided by positive 2 is 11, so plus 11, and that x stays to the first. And then I take negative 20 divided by 2, and I got negative 10, so I put minus 10. So take that out, and now when I do my t-test, ABC's right here. So I do my A times C, positive 6 times negative 10. It's negative 60. Okay, I got a negative, so this is a minus problem, and I'm trying to get the 11, which is positive. Don't forget that. So 1 and 60. 60 minus 1 is not 11. So I divide 60 by 2, I get 30. 30 minus 2 is not 11. 3 is 20. 20 minus 3 is not 11. Divide by 4, you get 15, and 15 minus 4 is 11. So it's these two. My 11's plus, so 15's plus, and we have a negative up there, so the signs have to be the opposite. Okay, now I'm going to make my parentheses out. So my A is not 12. A is 6. 6x to the second. So I make two parentheses, and I go 6x, 6x. Don't keep the x to the second, okay? And then minus 4 plus 15. Okay, then I see what they say about 6 and 4. So 6 comma 4 is 2. So I'm going to divide these by 2. And that takes us to 3x minus 2. Okay, 6 and 3. Or 6 and 15, my bad. The GCF's 3. So I divide by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2x. And 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay, now your GCF box, this 2 here needs to come down. But since it doesn't have an X, the 2 doesn't, I don't label it with F. This is F1, this is F2. And now I can get my two answers. So 3x minus 2 could equal 0, or 2x plus 5 could equal 0. So I dot my variables. And then I plus 2. 0 plus 2 is 2. So 3 times x equals 2. And then I divide by 3. 2 divided by 3 is a decimal. That's okay. That's going to be 0.6 repeating. So 0.6, just put a bar over the 6. And then I minus 5. 0 take away 5 is negative 5. So 2 times x equals negative 5. And then I divide by 2. And I see what negative 5 divided by 2 is. Negative 2.5. Okay, there you have your two answers. Okay, now my next problem. How many answers? Well, the x is to the power of 2, so that's 2 answers. So we got to see the 0. It's right there, so we're set. So now there's 2 terms. So with 2 terms, I go GCF and DOPS. Always how you factor 2 terms. So the GCF, check for the negative in the front. It's not there, so we don't put negative. Check if everything has x. Well, 3 does, 27 doesn't though, so don't put x. You're not going to put it here or here. Now GCF calculator, 3 and 27. Okay, I got 3, but it's just 3, not 3x. So 3 comes out. And 3 divided by 3 is 1, and the x stays to the second power because I didn't put x to the first down there, so it's x second. And then I take negative 27 divided by 3, and that's negative 9. So I got negative, so that means minus 9. Okay, whenever I actually do something in that box, cross out the top. Now, for the DOPS, we're looking at these two, not the 3. Ignore the 3. Okay, so check for x the second. It's there, so I go x, x. Is the second number negative? Yep, 9's negative. Turn this paper over, see if the numbers are perfect. 1 and 9, not 3, 1 and 9. 1's perfect because that's 1 times 1. 9. 9's perfect, but you don't put 9, 9. You look at it off the side and see what times itself is 9. It's 3. Okay, and that's completed. Now your GCF, you put that down here. You just kind of pull that down. But again, it doesn't have x, so it's not an important factor. The F1 and F2 are the factors with the x. Because again, this equals 0. I just took this and broke it into factors. So 1x plus 3 could equal 0, or 1x minus 3 equals 0. So dot your x, minus 3. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Dividing by 1 keeps us at negative 3. Then plus 3, 1 times x equals 3. 3 divided by 1 is 3. So it's those two. Okay, next problem. I have the second power. That means there's two answers, different answers to the problem. So you got to find your 0. It's there, so you're set. Okay. So again, two terms. So it's the same two boxes. GCF and my difference of DOPS box. Okay, my greatest common factor. Okay. If you forget how to do that, it's right here. You can always use this on tests on your own. Check for the negative in front. It's there, so we need negative. Check if everything has x. Well, we got x to the second on the negative 5 and x to the first on the 50. So everything does have x, so this time we're going to put x to the first. Okay? And then I GCF calculator 5 and 50. And I get 5. So this time I am going to put 5 with x to the first. And out here I put negative 5 with x to the first. Then negative 5x to the first, negative 5x to the first. So negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1. And then on x I take the second power minus the first power, and that's 1. Then I take positive 50 divided by negative 5, and I get negative 10, so minus 10. And since these powers are the same, we just get rid of them, okay, as long as they're the same. Now, cross that out, and when I'm checking for the DOPS, I'm looking at these two. But it's not possible because check for x second, it's not to the second, it's to the first. So this is NP, not possible, okay? So, again, this is my factor 1, this is my factor 2. Take the first powers out, and you set them each equal to 0. So negative 5x could equal 0, or 1x minus 10 could equal 0. Okay, then I dot my x's and circle them. Here I go straight to division. 0 divided by negative 5 is 0. If you forget that rule, use your calculator. Then plus 10, plus 10. 0 plus 10 is 10, so 1 times x equals 10. Divided by 1 is going to keep us at 10, 0 and 10. Okay, now the next problem. X to the second's there, so you got two answers. But you can't write set because you don't have the equal 0, so you're going to have to set this yourself, okay? So if it's not set, you take everything to the right and make it into the opposite, put a 1 there. So that 2 that's positive, now it's going to be a negative. That 21 that's positive, now it's going to be a negative. And now I go blank x second plus blank x plus blank equals 0. So for x to the second, I just have 1. For regular x, I have negative 2 plus negative 2, giving me negative 4. Then for non-x numbers, we have negative 21. Okay, remember to make these opposites. And now I can see we're set now with 3 terms. So 3 terms is going to be the GCF and the T box. So GCF and T. So the GCF, I check for the negative in the front. It's not there, so no negative. We check for x on everything. I have x to the second on the 1. I have x to the first on the negative 4, but negative 21 doesn't have anything, so I do not put x. Then I GCF calculate 1, 4, and 21. They're not going to let you do the negative, so 1, 4, 21. GCF's 1. So if the GCF's just a 1, we're not going to bother, okay? So I do my ABC instead of here, I go back up here. So I take positive 1 times negative 21. I got negative 21. So 21's negative, so it's going to be a minus problem, and the minus needs to equal 4, which is negative. So 1 and 21. 21 minus 1 is not 4. Now divide 21 by 2, that's not 4. Divide 21 by 3, I got 7, and 7 minus 3 is 4. So the 4 being negative, that means 7's negative, and I have a negative up here, so the signs are again the opposite. So plus. Now a is 1x to the second, so I'm still going to make the 4 parentheses. So 1x, and then plus 3 minus 7. Okay, 1 and 3, the GCF is going to be 1, so dividing by 1 just keeps it at 1x plus 3. And 1 and 7, the GCF's 1 if you use it. That's just going to divide by 1 and keep you at 1x minus 7. There's no GCF there to bring down, so my F1 and F2 take place here. So 1x plus 3 could equal 0, or 1x minus 7 could be equal 0. So I dot my x, I minus 3. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Then divide by 1, that's going to keep us at negative 3. Plus 7, 0 plus 7, 7. Dot and circle. 1x equals 7. Dividing by 1 keeps us at 7. Okay. All right, and our last problem. This is going to be a quick one because I don't have a second power. So there's just one answer. So I'm not looking for the set, the 0 in the set. I'm looking for the NFP. I'm doing the NFP. But you can't dot the x because there's 2 of them. So I take the 1 over here and get rid of it. So negative 8x, I plus 8x. Then plus 8x to 4x. Because a negative is like a minus, so it gives me 12x minus 2 equals 22. Now that I only see x once, I dot it and circle it. Plus 2, that's 24. So 12 times x equals 24. So to find x, I divide by 12. 24 divided by 12 equals 2. Okay. All right, and that's that. Okay, and that's pretty much what. If there's 2 answers, you got to set the equation at 0, then make your boxes. If you have 1 answer, it's an NFP. You make sure there's only a single x, dot it, circle it, and go from there.